What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's Professor Anime. Welcome back to another video. In today's video, guys, I'm here to bring you all my review for Berserk 2016 episode 2. So, let's get right into it. So, to be quite honest with you, I thought I wasn't really going to review the next few episodes of Berserk just because of how salty I was from the first episode. I mean, let's be honest here. They pretty much, skipped 6 volumes worth of Berserk, and when it comes to that, that really pissed me off because those 6 volumes are essential content to the story that influences Guts' character and also other characters that he meets along the way. Now, when it comes to this episode of Berserk, they got some parts right. Now, the way how I saw this episode adapted was that they had the fight scene with Guts versus the Holy Iron Chain Knights. Now, to me, I don't know if it was just me, but the fight scene felt kind of rushed, okay? However, around the middle portions of the episode where we see the interrogation scene with Guts and Farnese, that to me was actually done correctly. However, we get to see, various CGI pictures or screenshots of Farnese, looking kind of derpy. We have seen that in the trailers as well, but I mean, when it comes to the studio, I can't really say a whole lot about, the art because, I mean, this is what we have to expect. I mean, the art in this year's Berserk is going to be, 3D-ish. It's not going to be 2D, so I guess I'm going to have to live with that fact, but I'm just going to say that there are derpy moments that we ended up seeing in this episode, especially this picture of Guts right here. I mean, this picture right here, I posted this on Twitter, and I was like, you know what? This face is the representation of how much they are trolling the fan base so far right now, But anyways, regardless, the interrogation scene with Guts and Farnese, they actually ended up adapting that pretty well from what it seemed. And then at the end of this episode, we see that Guts ends up getting on his horse. He ends up escaping with Farnese, and we are about to see the demons break out in the next episode of Berserk, which is most likely going to show the horse rape scene. However, when it comes to actually showing the events that transpire in the next episode of Berserk, where we are most likely going to see the horse rape scene and pretty much everything else, being all chaotic in the next episode of Berserk, I highly doubt they are actually going to show all of it because I'm just skimming through the pages right now on volume 17 of Berserk, and just the amount of raunchiness and grotesque stuff that ends up going down with this, within these pages of Berserk, it makes me scared on how they are actually going to adapt this. They have to at least censor the living crap out of it in order to get past it. I mean, we actually saw in this episode of Berserk when Guts ends up capturing Farnese that it looks like they censored her nips. So, I mean, if they censored that, there is most likely going to be the fact that they are going to censor all of the shit that is going to go down in the next episode. Now, I just got one question. Why is the behelit that Guts was holding gray? The behelit that Guts had was gray. Now, as far as to my knowledge of the behelits go in Berserk, they are a reddish, orangish color, okay? I know there is other behelits out there, don't get me wrong, there is not just one behelit, I know that, but as far as the color goes of the behelits, they should all be orangish or reddish. They should all be that sort of color as far as my knowledge goes, so I was a little bit thrown aback when it comes to the grayish tone that we ended up getting out of this behelit that we saw in this episode of Berserk. I mean, there was even a 2D, snippet of Griffith holding the behelit. A Griffin holding his behelit, and it was a reddish, orangish color, you know. But then we revert to this scene where we see the behelit is gray, and I was a little bit confused on that. I mean, like, was the CGI so bad that it ended up messing up with the colors of the behelits? Like, I don't know. I mean, maybe there are behelits out there that possess different colors, but as far as to my knowledge, all the behelits that I have seen in Berserk, as far as the animes go, then, you know, they have always been a reddish, orangish color. So now the biggest question, how was this week's episode of Berserk compared to last week's episode? Well, last week's episode, as everyone knows who has, you know, seen my review on this channel of what I thought about last week's episode of Berserk, it was simply put horrendous. It was trash. It really was trash because they skipped so much of the story that how could you possibly make sense of what's going to go down later down the line of Berserk if you can't even understand or grasp what is going on in the, you know, from the previous episode, the episode that started everything off, you know. And, I mean, the only people who are going to end up knowing exactly what is going on with Berserk is people who have read the manga. People who have read the anime or the movies can understand slightly to what is going on, but they aren't going to understand what is going to go on for the continuation of this series because they skipped so much. I'm still quite salty about last week's episode. I mean, it was just bad. It was bad, but we're talking about this episode today. This episode was decent. I'm going to say this episode was decent compared to last week's episode. I mean, they are following the manga somewhat for one. We saw, you know, the whole interrogation with Guts and Farnese, which was pretty nice, and the fight scene with the Holy Iron Chain Knights. It seems like they are actually adapting the story fairly well. Now, but here is the thing. I don't even know if they're going to animate the horse rape scene, because as I stated previously, it looks like they are going to adapt the horse rape scene in the next episode, because that's what you would normally do when it comes to the manga. You would adapt that next portion, which is going to come next in the series. However, here is the thing. I don't even know if they are going to adapt that, because if you look at the preview for what's going to happen next in next week's episode of Berserk, there's filler or original content. Okay? Original content, filler, same thing. Okay? When it comes to what is going on in that preview, we see that Guts ends up somewhere in a mansion with Farnese, like an abandoned mansion, and there's the demons that are coming out, and then there's this one guy who has a very squished in looking face. Like, I don't remember that at all in the manga. I don't remember that at all. What's going on here? If you have time to animate filler, then why not just, you know, follow along with the manga? Why not animate, you know, the story properly? I don't understand that. So I'm a little confused on what's going on with that. I mean, maybe it is just, you know, a simple fact on, you know, how they are trying to get around past the portion of, you know, the grotesqueness and raunchiness that ended up transpiring in the manga with the horse rape scene. I mean, to be honest, I knew for a fact they were going to censor that, but it looks like they're just going to skip it entirely with original content and come up with a bullshit excuse on how it's exactly Guts and Farnese ended up getting to this abandoned mansion that I have never even heard about from the manga. So, yeah, this Berserk adaptation isn't really the best. I mean, the people who are only going to enjoy this, as I stated before, are people who have read the manga to Berserk or have seen the previous films or the anime series. Those are the only people that are going to watch this, because, you know, people who have a slight interest of Berserk are not going to jump into this series and expecting something great. They're just not, because you're not going to understand fully of what goes on in the story of Berserk, because they skipped so much. You know, how are you going to continue a story by the fact that you skip so much? I mean, there isn't even the explanation on how exactly Guts ended up receiving the Behemoths. What the hell is going on with Casca? You know, how exactly did, you know, Guts ended up receiving previous wounds to actually end up getting defeated by the Holy Iron Chain Knights? You know, I mean, we only saw a few sword swings of Guts in the last episode of Berserk, of him swinging at skeletons, but regardless, they showed him completely injured from that fight, supposedly, even though he wasn't supposed to be injured in that fight. And apparently he has a bunch of injuries when he meets the Holy Iron Chain Knights, and then he loses to them. Of course, he ends up losing to them in the manga, but where's the explanation on this stuff? You know, this story is just all over the place. The adaptation is so confuzzled. Like, I, as a fan, I don't even know what's going on anymore. Like, to be quite honest with you, I don't know. I mean, I'm just gonna watch this, you know, series for what it is. I mean, I'm a fan of Berserk, so of course I'm gonna watch it. However, when it comes to an adaptation of this, you know, of Berserk, like, this one is the lowest of the low. It's trash. It's trash. Okay? Let's be honest here. I'm gonna watch a few more episodes of Berserk. I don't want to bash on this anime adaptation so much that, you know, I just get tired of it. You know, so, because honestly, I'm getting quite tired of it already. So I don't know how many more episodes I am going to review on this channel of Berserk. I mean, we will see how far I go, but there is a high possibility that I'm not going to review every single episode to this series of Berserk. So just keep that in mind, okay? But if you guys do want to see more rants and more reviews on my channel of Berserk, or possibly anything else, don't forget to hit that red subscribe button down below. And of course, if you like this video, don't forget to drop a like. It always helps out the channel. And if you want to leave a comment and let me know what you thought about this week's episode of Berserk, and just let me know your overall thoughts for the anime in general, then let me hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. I'm Professor Anime. Love you all. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.